West African leaders call for transition period after coup in Burkina Faso and decry spate of military takeovers. Chinese President Xi Jinping holds talks with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in Beijing. And a South African company uses Moderna data to develop the first mRNA-type vaccine on the continent. And a very warm welcome to you wherever you're tuning in. This is Africa Live on CGTN. I'm Mahia Mutua in Nairobi. Also coming up, cancer survivors in Uganda call for more attention to be given to patients' welfare. And in sports, Egypt beat hosts Cameroon to reach the finals of the Africa Cup of Nations. Leaders of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, have called on the military authorities in Burkina Faso to set up a transition period to return the country to constitutional rule as soon as possible. The regional bloc has also upheld the suspension of Burkina Faso and demanded the release without conditions of ousted President Roch Marc Kabore, who's been detained by the military junta. CGTN's Nabil Ahmed Rufai reports from Accra.
The West African leaders met in Accra to discuss the political situation in Burkina Faso, Guinea, and Mali. ECOWAS says it is worried about the disregard for democratic governance in some member countries.
The resurgence of coups d'etats in our region is a matter of grave concern. This evolution challenges the democratic way of life we have chosen. We need to stand firm to protect democracy and freedom in our region.
The wave of military coups in the West Africa region started in Mali in 2020, followed by Guinea in 2021, and then Burkina Faso in January. A fourth military coup in Guinea-Bissau was thwarted but has left at least 11 killed. President of Guinea-Bissau, Umaru Embalo, who survived an attempted coup a few days ago, did not attend this ECOWAS meeting, but he was represented by a member of his government. ECOWAS says it will deploy a force to Guinea-Bissau to help stabilize the country. The regional bloc has, however, upheld the suspension of Burkina Faso until the country is restored to constitutional rule.
They also requested the immediate release of President Roch Marc Kabore, release without condition. The head of state decided to request the current military authorities to MPSR to very rapidly propose a timetable for the restoration of constitutional order.
Meanwhile, ECOWAS says it will not lift the economic sanctions on Guinea and Mali until a timeline for elections is agreed to return the countries to a civilian government. Analysts say more still needs to be done to prevent military takeovers in the region.
In as much as ECOWAS protocols is against forceful takeover of power by the military, there's also an ECOWAS protocol on good governance that is against misgovernance in all its forms: corruption, disrespect for the rights of the people, manipulation of the constitution so you can extend your rule. Unfortunately, it appears ECOWAS sees absolutely nothing wrong with this.
While ECOWAS says it is concerned about the insecurity fueled by militant groups linked to ISIL within the sub-region, analysts want the regional bloc to seek external support from the international community to deal with the insurgencies effectively. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
Well, ECOWAS is battling to prevent military power grabs which have increased in the region. Mali, Guinea and Burkina Faso are currently suspended from the bloc because of the coups.
They have decided to really invite the transition authority in Mali to provide a new timetable that will be acceptable to ECOWAS and that will allow the gradual lifting of the sanction. I think the authority reiterated the need for the transition authorities in Guinea to provide this timetable, an acceptable timetable to ECOWAS, and meanwhile also, of course, decide to maintain the sanctions that were in place. This situation, the security situation, is not a reason for military takeover. The job of the military is to defend the territory, the national territory, and to fight terrorist activities. Because what those coups really will lead, and certainly will lead to, is a reduction in support from regional and international community, but in particular support to fight terrorist activities.
To Guinea-Bissau now, where authorities there have launched an investigation into a foiled coup. On Tuesday afternoon, heavily armed men tried to topple President Umaru Sissoco Embalo at the government palace. Embalo survived the 5-hour gun battle, but 11 people, including soldiers, died during the attack. Following the incident, soldiers have been patrolling the streets and also blocked access to the Palace of Government. Guinea-Bissau has suffered 4 military coups since independence from Portugal back in 1974. Regional bloc ECOWAS says it intends to send a stabilization force to the West African nation.
This act was committed by a group of bandits who wanted to take power under the orders of another group like them. Look, I'm here with all the military leaders, including the acting chief of staff. It's just to tell you that what happened is really sad. This act will again make Guinea-Bissau known all over the world. I don't think it will make us worthy.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has been holding talks with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in Beijing. The meeting comes just before the opening ceremony of the Beijing Winter Olympics. Putin arrived at the Diao Yutai guest house in the Chinese capital this afternoon. President Xi said political and strategic mutual trust will continue to be enhanced between China and Russia. The two leaders will attend the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics, scheduled to start at 8 p.m. local time at the National Stadium. Putin was the first world leader to confirm his presence at the Olympics. He told Chinese media that as good friends and politicians, he and President Xi share many common views on solving world problems. Putin also said he opposes politicization of sports by some countries for selfish interests. Well, Xi's meeting with Putin marks the Chinese leader's first face-to-face talks with a world leader in nearly 2 years since the COVID-19 pandemic began. Earlier, our reporter Sun Ye told us about what to expect.
The Russian president has landed in Beijing, and that face-to-face summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping is expected to take place very soon before the pair attend the Winter Games opening ceremony this evening. Now, Putin is among the first heads of states to confirm attendance for the Winter Games, and we have heard extensively from the Russian president himself in the last few days about the summit and his anticipation for the Winter Games, including from an interview with our mother group CMG. Putin has called the attempts by a number of countries to politicize sports for their selfish interests sad. He also said that such attempt is fundamentally wrong and contrary to the very spirit and principle of the Olympic Charter. The Russian president has also said that bilateral ties have entered a new era. In that CMG interview we were talking about, Putin has said of the bilateral relation, and to quote again, has reached an unprecedented level and become a model of efficiency, responsibility, and aspiration for the future. Now, that meeting between the two presidents would build on that statement. Key issues for the coming summit include not only bilateral but also regional and global ones.
Now, the leader of ISIL is dead following a U.S. counter-terrorism operation in northwest Syria. The raid took place in Idlib province near the Turkish border. 13 people have been killed, including children. The U.S. says none of its soldiers are killed. Nathan King has more.
This very dramatic raid in northern Syria, catching something that the US has been after for a long time. Abu Ibrahim al-Hashami al-Qurashi who took over as the leader of Islamic State from Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi back in 2019 after his assassination, is now dead. According to US sources, he basically blew himself up after his compound was surrounded. And US President Biden spoke very early in the morning here to celebrate this victory.
Our forces carried out the operation with their signature preparation and precision, and I directed the Department of Defense to take every precaution possible to minimize civilian casualties. Knowing that this terrorist had chosen to surround himself with families, including children, we made a choice to pursue a special forces raid at a much greater risk than to our own people, rather than targeting him with an airstrike. We made this choice to minimize civilian casualties.
Now, apparently this raid used special forces, according to US sources, several helicopters, one of which had a malfunction, therefore was destroyed on site by US special forces. That has echoes of what happened in the raid that killed Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad in Pakistan. What is disturbing is the fact that there were several civilians, more than several civilians, including 6 children, we understand, 4 women killed. Now, the reason for this raid carried out was apparently to minimize civilian casualties, but it has been the case with many anti-terrorism operations carried out by the US. There has always been civilian casualties. And you know what's really different this time is that the reporting of the civilian casualties comes alongside the apparent victory for Americans when it comes to rooting out terrorists, because there's been a lot of focus on the collateral damage, as they used to call it, after the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and also looking into investigations that the Pentagon have carried out that have not revealed the full extent of civilian casualties. However, this is a victory against ISIS. As you know, even though the US is present in Syria illegally, they have been very worried about a resurgence of ISIS, especially in Idlib province, where this happened after a prison break, which led to a lot of suspected terrorists and foreign fighters being released. And so therefore this has been claimed by a victory against the US. But the fundamental causes of what's going on when it comes to Islamic terrorism in Syria, in Iraq, well, they still haven't been solved. Nathan King, CGTN at the White House.
And taking you back to our top story this hour, 27 world leaders and heads of international organizations have arrived in Beijing to attend the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympic Games. The president of the International Olympic Committee, Thomas Bach, arrived on January the 22nd and has so far attended multiple games-related activities. Grand Duke Henri of Luxembourg arrived in Beijing on Monday. He was the first foreign head of state to touch down in the Chinese capital for the event. On Thursday, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, President of the 76th session of the UN General Assembly, Abdullah Shahid, and the head of the World Intellectual Property Organization, Darren Tang, also arrived in Beijing. Other participating leaders include the presidents of Russia, Argentina, Egypt, Serbia, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and Turkmenistan, as well as the Pakistani Prime Minister. Well, it's time for us to take a quick break. Still ahead on the program. A South African company uses Moderna data to develop the first mRNA-type vaccine on the continent. And cancer survivors in Uganda call for more attention to be given to patient welfare. Welcome back. Now, South Africa's Afrigen Biologics has used Moderna data to design, develop and produce the first mRNA-type vaccine for COVID-19 on the African continent. The company says the vaccine will be tested in humans before the end of this year. The patent-free version of the shot would be cheaper than the $30 one available on the market. The World Health Organization hired Afrigen last year. It is one of several chosen in a pilot program to help low and middle-income countries crack the code of COVID vaccines. This would help overcome vaccine inequalities between rich and poor countries. Now, a week after COVAX delivered its billionth dose in Rwanda, UNICEF launched the first ever You Report challenge, calling on all 13.3 million You reporters in Africa to help get vaccines to the unvaccinated. Through improving access and confidence in COVID-19 vaccines, the Give It a Shot challenge aims to activate young people and motivating those eligible in their community to get vaccinated through social media platforms. Weekly messages will be sent on You Report to encourage young people to learn about COVID-19 vaccines. They will be engaged in community actions both online and offline. CGTN's Nick Mudimba engaged two young people on what they think about the COVID-19 vaccination drive.
So what do you think about COVID-19 vaccination amongst the youth?
First of all, I think it's really, really low in Kenya because majority of the youths are unemployed. And meaning they don't see a reason to get employed because at this point in time, the government say that if you're employed, you need to be vaccinated. And the employed youths are vaccinated. But if you look at the number of employed and you ratio it to the number of unemployed, the unemployed is more. So majority of the youths are unemployed, thus they don't see the reason to get vaccinated. Two, I also think there's a bit of ignorance among the youth because I don't know, it's just a mentality that we have that, oh, what's the reason of getting vaccinated? How will it help us? Okay, we got the other vaccines and we never got the actual diseases. So what are the chances of us getting corona? And I'm thinking that's what's making. And also, yeah, peer pressure. Peer pressure. It actually applies a lot. Because if my friend tells me that she's not getting vaccinated, I'm like, okay, she didn't get vaccinated, so I don't see the need to, as much as I wanted to. I'd feel like, okay, because she didn't get vaccinated, I'm also saying I don't see a need to also get vaccinated. And it's becoming a really big problem because people are not identifying corona as the virus that it is, and they're not taking the seriousness of the vaccine.
So what do you think about the whole idea of COVID-19 vaccinations among the young people?
Among the youth, I think I can start for myself because I took a lot of time before I took my vaccine. That's because I really didn't know why, the reason why, in as much as knowing what the COVID-19 does, okay? But then the moment I went, it was just by my own initiative that I went and took the vaccine. You know, there's a perception of youth thinking like the government wants to curb the fertility rate, you know. And then other friends of mine, there is the effects, okay. Some people, like after hearing what your friends are saying, yeah, saying like I had this, I didn't wake up like for a whole week, yeah. Other friends are like they had no effect at all. The morning they just wake up and go to their households. But then for my case, I think I slept the whole 2 days after the vaccine, which actually messed me a lot. I just felt like I shouldn't have gone for the vaccine. I slept for like 2 days, sleeping down, doing nothing. It was really a mess.
Yeah, I think it's really, really wise to get the vaccine because, as I said, prevention is better than cure. And I've seen people dying, and I don't want anyone close to me to die because I got COVID and because it's a communicable disease. My family member got COVID and it became deadly to them. So also because I really love the people around me, I want to protect them. And I also want to protect myself because who doesn't love their life? I love life and I want to live longer. So that's, I think, I'd advise anyone to take the vaccine, really.
Let's turn to Sudan now, where the coronavirus pandemic and recent political developments in the country have led to the collapse of many learning institutions. This has forced many children to stay at home for at least one academic year. CGTN's Daniela Pearson has the details.
The Sudanese government decided to shut down all learning institutions in the country this week. The move is a precautionary measure due to the coronavirus pandemic and the recent tensions linked to the country's political transition. Many parents like Abir Khaled have been forced to turn to homeschooling and other methods to keep their children busy. Abir says that despite the government's aim of limiting the spread of the coronavirus, the school closure has negatively impacted their son.
Our children have exams piling up on them. We parents are also under a lot of psychological pressure. I hope that the government will reconsider the arrangements.
Many Sudanese citizens have expressed similar sentiments.
The decision has psychologically affected students and families. Students have become disinterested in studying because they have a lot of free time on their side.
Sudan is currently experiencing its fourth wave of the coronavirus pandemic. The Sudanese Minister of Health, Haitham Mohammed, has warned that the rapid increase in COVID-19 infections could lead to an overflow of patients.
The increase in infections will lead to a collapse of the health system. If people do not observe the health requirements and do not take vaccinations, we will reach the stage we experienced in the first and second wave.
The government insists that the temporary closure of schools is necessary as it serves as a precautionary measure against COVID-19. Daniela Pearson, CGTN.
Now, in Uganda, cancer survivors are pushing local authorities to close what's known as the care gap. They are concerned that some patients are losing the battle to cancer because they cannot afford the high cost of treatment. CGTN's Hilary Ayesiga has that report.
Roger Baloja battled cancer for 12 years. He suffered from Burkitt lymphoma, a type of cancer that attacks the lymphatic system. Roger says one day he woke up with a swollen jaw, and his parents, thinking it was toothache, took him to the dentist.
After removing that tooth, and the next morning the jaw continued to expand. That's where I started the journey, whereby my father has to look for specialists to see what was going on.
Baloja says he only survived because of early detection and good care.
When cancer is in the area, let's say stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3, you are sure that that cancer will be treated, whatever cancer type it might be. The only problem when cancer is being discovered when it is on the stage 4, there is a very, very limited chances of being healed.
Another cancer survivor, John Amanya, says everybody deserves access to high quality and affordable treatment.
Treatment therapies are expensive. How can we reduce that? So we still work to advocate for policies, government policies that can help access best practices and policies.
Cancer treatment drugs over the counter in Uganda are expensive. A course of chemotherapy can cost at least $85, which is simply out of reach for many patients. According to the World Health Organization's official list, there are 36 essential cancer treatments. With support from the American Cancer Society and the Clinton Health Access Initiative, treatment is available for some in Uganda at no cost.
If we can treat breast cancer, we can treat prostate cancer free of charge, and their drugs are available. That means that everything is actually being covered.
However, cancer survivors want the government to do more. They say not all essential drugs are provided at the National Referral Hospital. So as Baloja and other cancer survivors push to close the care gap, they hope the government will step in to help patients who can't afford life-saving treatment. Hilary Ayesiga, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
Well, let's jump straight into the sport, where IOC President Thomas Bach has reiterated his belief that the Beijing Winter Olympics will change cold weather sports forever, and also expressed appreciation for the preparation work done by the organizing committee while speaking at a press conference on the eve of the Games. CGTN's Damian Jones has the story.
International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach is clearly excited about Beijing becoming the first city to host both the summer and winter versions of the world's most prominent multi-sport showcase.
We can say Beijing is ready. The amazing venues are ready. The Olympic villages are ready. And most important, the athletes are ready. From tomorrow on, Beijing will officially be the first city to host summer and winter editions of the Olympic Games.
The German sports administrator also hailed the groundwork done ahead of Beijing 2022 and discussed the host nation successfully reaching its goal of greatly increasing domestic interest in cold weather sports.
It is well prepared in many respects. I think the most impressive and the most important achievement in the preparations is the fact that more than 300 million Chinese people have been introduced to a winter sport during the preparation for these Olympic Games.
Bach expressed his appreciation for China's decision to stage the Winter Games during the Lunar New Year holiday period as well.
I'm really touched. You see the Chinese people from all walks of life embracing these Olympic Winter Games and taking it as a great start for the Spring Festival.
The opening ceremony will get underway later on Friday at 8 p.m. Beijing time, with at least 32 international heads of state, heads of government, royal family members, and global organization leaders expected to attend the curtain-raising gala and other related activities. Damian Jones, CGTN.
And finally, just before we go, a reminder of yesterday's result in the Africa Cup of Nations, where Egypt are through to the final after beating the hosts Cameroon 3-1 on extra time penalties. That's it for this edition of Africa Live. Remember, you can send your feedback to those contacts on your screen and follow us on our digital media platform. Next, we'll have a special feature on the opening of the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics. Stay tuned for the games on, coming up shortly.